Hello and welcome to the Joy of Building with your host Abby, or as I sometimes go by, Stinkbug. This is a Bob Ross inspired series where I take you through some buildings in my little week or so on this little single player world here. And we will be continuing today with our tranquil animal farm here in our lovely starter base. We're going to be doing trees, rocks, and paths largely. And I think we're going to be focusing mostly on the trees, though we're going to do a little bit of path work to start, because every good build needs a path to lead up to it. And this is all about details. We're going to be doing some interiors as well to the lovely builds we did last week. For this path here, we're going to be mixing in some coarse dirt as the main structure of the path, and then having stone on the edges like before. And this path we're making a little bit different by mixing in just a little bit more granite into the build. We're also putting the stones all on the edge like before, and on the lead up to builds like this, especially in this large barn, we want them all on the edge. For our path here, we're going to do some campfires, which make it look a little bit more rustic and natural. And on hills, we do half slabs. The granite works very well for this, and I think blends in with the jungle grass a decent amount. It at least complements it well. And for these type of paths, we are keeping with the same theme, but probably doing a little bit more of the coarse dirt than normal. And then doing bigger splotches of the stones themselves. So when there are patches of stones, they are more inlaid, almost like there is a little bit of a rougher patch of gravel in the path, because all of it is really like a gravel and dirt path in lore wise, in what you're trying to replicate. And then we're going to do another campfire bridge here. We're going to do that along all of the waterways we did last episode, and these paths are looking wonderful. And then for the interiors of these barns, I would really like to get them done first. So after this, we'll do some more decorating. And we're going to do jungle wood for all of the floors here. And then do patches of oak in the floor just to give a little bit of variation. And on this sheep barn, it matches the pillars a little bit better, which is really nice. I enjoy that. And the jungle wood in here in these barns, I like it when it is unstripped, because it kind of looks like some muddy hay, which is generally what you would see at the bottom of most barns. Either a wood floor or a kind of mud / packed dirt floor with a bunch of hay. And it's always good to pull on from your own experience. You can also look up images and things like that. On these edges, we're going to do railings of oak trapdoors. I really love trapdoors for railings. They make very, very good detail blocks. And then we're going to put a little stair like we did last episode to finish off this trapdoor. And we'll do it a little bit higher just because it's a little bit of a falling hazard. And then we'll put a few stockades in here for the animals to have a little bit of separation, a little bit of privacy, and we'll put some water in all of those. There is some for the pigs, and we're gonna do a little bit of decorating around the area with some of the stuff I got from Lush Caves around while mining. And we've done a little bit of decoration in here as well. So we'll put a little hay bale, trough, I guess it's called. And then we'll put some hay kind of in storage up here. And we'll do the same thing in the sheep pen, though it's a little bit more complicated due to it being on a diagonal. For these ones, it doesn't matter too much if we do kind of a straight line. And trapdoors make really good bases for like barrels and things like that, so I'm sure we will be using many more of them in the future. And we'll try to do something more with the diagonal here to have one trough instead of two, like the hay troughs. But it's looking a little wonky. We'll try to fix this if we can. Yeah, maybe we'll go out this way to increase the surface area, and if we switch these two trapdoors, it might just look a little bit more smooth. Yeah, that looks wonderful. And is a great example of how trapdoors can be used even on diagonals. Then for this shelf here, we're gonna just do some trapdoors, which if we line them up correctly, we can put some double chests on top of, which will look like a little shelf. I don't always love how the second chest floats on top of it, so I don't always put one on top of it, but you could put even more up there, and we'll do it all the way up to the roof, basically. So we can put another chest up there, which I think looks good. I think it looks nice. And then I think we need to work on some of the foliage around here. I think we need some trees and such. For those, we're probably going to do some jungle wood, some granite, and some roots made out of the same jungle wood. We'll inlay those in the ground. Roots generally spread outwards, so you're gonna want to imagine the paths that roots have kind of grown over and such. We'll use walls to smooth the transition between the roots that might be crawling up from the base of the tree. And then we're going to do a low branch here with some jungle wood, or some jungle fences. Those jungle fences will smoothly transition from the granite walls really well. So I think that they are good uses of those blocks, especially for branches. They very much resemble branches. And then with trees, I like to make them going at a diagonal or at a certain direction. It doesn't have to be a diagonal per se, but trees generally like to stretch towards light as they grow. So often they're going to grow up into a space that hasn't been occupied. So in this area, we're just going to move these branches into this very large open space away from the other trees over here. Though some of these branches definitely can come up and over towards them. And there's no exact science with trees. None of them are made the same. Branches almost always go from like a 90-degree angle where they're the strongest. Those are considered like strong branches. Weak branches still exist, but they often will break off over time. And using FreeCam is a really, really helpful tool. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. It's always nice to get an extra perspective. And then for these bushes, we're going to be doing a little bit of an advanced technique, but it's really simple. I used to not like doing this, but oops. I used to not like doing this, but over time, especially as they've added moss, it's a lot easier to add a moss block and then put a fern or a grass block on top of it, or a grass decoration block. I'm not quite sure what they're perfectly called. But we are going to be doing azalea on the low and some of the high points. I find that the jungle oak texture, or oak leaf texture, is very bright, especially compared to the azalea, which is normally a very vibrant green, though it goes well with most things, especially the moss, which we're going to be using at some of the low points, as well as to get the extra detail with the grass and ferns and such. And you can bone meal those grass blocks so they're taller, they're really versatile. For instance, we're going to put a fern here, and we're going to bone meal it. So it goes all the way up to the rest of that, and it kind of looks like a branch which has grown upwards and then grown some leaves on top of it. And that's what I'm doing while I'm building these trees, thinking about how trees look in my life, as well as not giving too much thought to every placement, because trees look a little bit flawed. If you look at trees in your life, I mean, many of them are beautiful in that flawed way. I don't think many things are beautiful if they aren't a little bit flawed. But it's good to have a little bit of wonk to your trees. They don't always cover all spaces perfectly. If you sit under a shady tree, sometimes there are little bits that haven't been covered. But also, at the top, these top leaves shouldn't cover every spot that the bottom leaves are getting with sun. Sometimes they might be above it, but as long as a bit of sunlight gets to it from an angle, then they're still good. And you should be putting some leaves below it. That's what we're going to be doing here. But I wouldn't overdo it, because most leaves are towards the top. So these are going to be like hanging leaves from some of the branches. Branches also often succumb to weight as the leaves get bigger, depending on the tree, of course. And I think this looks wonderful. It's a little bit of a very large bonsai tree in some ways. But that's kind of what I was going for with this. It's always good to do a little bit of touch-ups to that little bit that I thought was a little bit underdone. But you can always come back to it, and you can always tinker to your heart's content with these builds. Then glowberries are a really nice extra addition. One can give light to the area, which is really useful, I find, just to get rid of spawning. But it also serves as a kind of hanging vine or a branch that's going a little bit lower than the rest. And then for this one, we're going to do a similar branch to the side, but this one's going to be a little bit taller, maybe a little bit more substantial. And we're going to go really heavy on the moss grass on this one, just to show a little bit more of a bushier tree or leaf. And it's hard to get some of these corners with the fences, but it's always good to get a look at your build from a different angle in the process anyway. We'll put a glowberry here just to have it hanging, and it gives a little bit of an isometric view. And so far I like it. It's a small tree, but I like it. And a little bit of flowering azalea just gives a little bit of color in what is generally a pretty green build. And we're going to do one here over by the sheep pen, following a similar formula of low branch, but we're going to do a few extra low branches. I also tried out some trapdoor branches on this one, but I don't love it. Just for this build, they do make good small branches, and I think I like them the most when they don't have leaves on them and they're just meant to be a simple small branch. Oh, I like that. That's so cute. And it looks good from this angle. We'll add a little bit to this area, but I'd like to add some glowberries. We don't have any right now. And I don't have too much wood, so we're going to use a little bit of oak wood, but we'll put another one over by here for the sheepies. And I'll have this one hanging a little bit more to one side, generally going towards the outer edge, just to give a little bit more of a covering in this area. It's more about spatial placement than it is about getting a natural tree, I guess, is what I'm trying to think of. And for this branch, I think we're going to go a little bit more twisty and outward than we have with the other ones. Most of the other ones I've done pretty tall. And I think we should go out to a side for this one, but probably to an angle. And I'm not sure how these walls will look because they're not really attaching, but we'll see when we get down. And I think I might add some branches to this to make it look a little bit more natural. And with a little bit of a cut, doing very similar work that we have done in the past. I really like it. We'll add a little branch here, which some of these small branches can help, and we definitely need some glowberries. This one definitely seems like a glowberry tree to me. Put one here where we don't have too much going on. And then I think we need to do a few rocks for this area, especially for the chickens. They really like climbing on stuff, and they don't have much to climb right now. So right now I am just getting a perimeter for a rock, kind of getting a shaping for a large rock. This is how I start with these, and I like to think about it like either building a Lego set or reverse sculpting, if that makes any sense. So I'm taking away things as I put them down, but I'm also building up what I think of as a rock layer by layer. And we're going to do multiple different blocks to make it very varied. Keep your eyes not just looking at a whole chunk of mossy cobble or cobblestone, but having a little bit of variation and making the mossy cobble still interesting because there's not quite as much of it. It kind of looks like towards the ground, some of it is more overgrown than others. And we're going to get some walls here to add a little bit of extra definition. I find that walls are one of the few ways that you can get an indent other than stairs and slabs, and they're pretty useful for it. It kind of gives a more rounded look, or chipped is kind of how I like to think of it as I'm building. I have melons on my hotbar. I don't really know what I want to use them for, but I do want to mix some in somewhere. Probably not in this rock, though. And I'm gonna try out, it looks a little bit square, which I kind of like. That was what I was going for. I don't know about this tall wall. Maybe we'll do one, which I kind of like, but I think that there should be a different form of definition. So let's do slab there. I like the wall there. And then if we do an upside down stair with slabs like that, and we change this, yeah, I like that a lot better. There still needs to be a little bit of changing, but it's definitely on the right path. Getting some stairs over here will help round this side out a little bit better. Give that side a little bit of asymmetry. And I really like that, especially with the sideways stair there. And if we just change this to something like that, I really like that because it changes the stair to a little bit of an angle. And then for the rest of these rocks, we're probably going to zoom through them because we've done quite a bit of rocks on this series, but we're going to do as small and interesting for the animals as we can. This is one that I really, really like. It is kind of like a I'd say it's like a bench. And then under the trees, we're gonna do some moss, which is going to serve as a little bit of shading for where the shade, I guess, for lack of a better term, would be cast over or under the tree. So we're gonna do that over a few of the places and then put a little bit of azalea bushes as small little decorations, which I think will make this place look a lot better in a very small effort way. And some rose bushes are the start of decorations that I will add throughout the series in here. I'm sure that there are more decorations that we can add to this place, but it is looking wonderful. I'm so happy with it. I hope you guys like it as well. A little quick walk around. More trees everywhere, and every segment has their own tree, I think, except for the chickens, which we'll have to change eventually, but I am out of time for this episode. I'm so happy that we got it all done, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it to the end of this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Bye!